They rise before the sun. They sweat, they grind, they obey. Yet at the end of the day, their pockets are light and their backs are broken. You've seen them. You may be one of them. The world praises hard work. From childhood, we are told, work hard, stay humble, and success will come. But what if that's the grandest lie of all? What if hard work, in the way we've been taught to understand it, is not a path to success, but a trap? Friedrich Nietzsche saw through it, long before modern labor statistics, before gig economies and corporate exploitation. Nietzsche had already uncovered the silent mechanism that kept the masses in chains, mental chains. He called it slave morality. In Nietzsche's world, there are two moralities: master morality and slave morality. Master morality is born from strength, nobility, power. It creates its own values. It does not ask for permission. It does not apologize for being dominant. Slave morality, on the other hand, is the morality of the weak, the oppressed, the masses. It says, to be meek is to be good. To be obedient is virtuous. To suffer in silence is noble. Where master morality says, I will take, slave morality says, I will wait. Where the master says, I am powerful, therefore I define right, the slave says, power is evil, humility is divine. Now ask yourself, which one sounds like the morality you were raised to follow? Hard work, in the slave morality framework, becomes a virtue in itself, regardless of results. It's not about impact, influence, or independence. It's about discipline, duty, and endurance. But here's Nietzsche's radical insight. This morality was not created for your benefit. It was engineered to pacify you. You were taught to work hard not because it would make you rich, but because it would make you predictable, manageable, exploitable. The factory worker, the delivery driver, the janitor, these are not lazy people. These are not the problem. They are the backbone of society. But the system has trained them to believe that suffering is a badge of honor, that to complain is weakness, that to want more is greed. So they keep grinding, earning the least, while the ones who manipulate symbols, who create nothing tangible, earn the most. Nietzsche wouldn't be surprised. He saw this inversion of values as a kind of spiritual sickness, the ressentiment of the weak. Instead of overthrowing their masters, the weak redefined morality to make themselves feel morally superior. And over time, this morality became institutionalized, codified into religion, education, and economics. Today, the hardest workers are still caught in this invisible morality. They believe that hard work is inherently good. But Nietzsche would ask, good for whom? Let's be clear, Nietzsche was not anti-work. He admired strength, discipline, excellence. But he despised obedience for obedience's sake. He detested the glorification of suffering when it led nowhere. What he demanded was a revaluation of all values. He wanted humanity to wake up from the dream, no, the nightmare, that told them they must toil endlessly to prove their worth. You want proof? Look at the modern economy. The hardest workers, the physical laborers, the night shift nurses, the sanitation crew, they are indispensable. Without them, the world stops. But they are paid scraps. They have no leverage. And worst of all, they are told that this is just how life works. The people who own the machines don't sweat. The people who manage the laborers don't bleed. The people who write the rules don't follow them. They simply extract. The modern world is not run by the hardest workers. It is run by those who understand systems, those who can leverage capital, data, psychology. Nietzsche might not have predicted hedge funds or tech monopolies, but he would have understood the principle. Power is not physical, it is symbolic. Those who work the hardest in the physical realm are often the most trapped in the symbolic one. Because to escape this trap, you need to do more than work. You need to think. You need to challenge. You need to create. Nietzsche called for the rise of the Übermensch, the overman, one who transcends herd morality and creates his own values. This isn't about arrogance. It's about autonomy. The Übermensch does not accept the morality handed down by the crowd. He doesn't worship toil for its own sake. He chooses a purpose, a vision, and reshapes the world around it. So why do the hardest workers earn the least? Because they are still living under the moral system of obedience. Because they have not yet questioned the story they were told. Let that sink in. The belief in hard work as the supreme virtue is not truth. It's not nature. It's a construct, a myth that benefits those at the top. Nietzsche's lesson is harsh but liberating. If you want to rise, you must break the spell. You must unlearn the morality of the slave and reclaim the will to power. This doesn't mean abandoning discipline. It means redirecting it, not towards endless labor for others, but toward building your own domain. Ask yourself, are you sweating for your survival, or are you sweating for your supremacy? Are you enduring, or are you engineering? The system will never reward the hardest workers, because the system does not value sweat. It values control. It values leverage. It values boldness. And hard work without power is just glorified servitude. This is not a call to laziness. Nietzsche despised laziness, but he despised blind obedience even more. He wanted you to rise not by working harder, but by thinking deeper, not by conforming, but by creating, not by enduring your suffering, but by transforming it into strength. In the next section, we will dive deeper into how society conditions this mentality, how school, religion, and even your family might have played a role in shaping a value system designed to keep you compliant. We'll explore how Nietzsche's concept of the herd still dominates our modern world, and how the herd instinct keeps the masses in place, docile, obedient, and convinced they are virtuous. But for now, sit with this thought. Maybe you are not poor because you didn't work hard enough. Maybe you are poor because you believed the wrong story, a story designed not to lift you, but to pacify you. The question isn't, how can I work harder? The question is, whose values am I serving? Until you answer that, you will remain in chains. Invisible chains, but chains nonetheless. Part 2, the system that trains you to obey. If you're born into a cage, you don't know it's a cage. You call it a home. You call it tradition. You call it school. But Nietzsche saw it differently. From the moment you can walk, the world begins training you to conform. Not to think, not to question, but to obey. To sit still, raise your hand, color inside the lines. And if you do it well enough, if you follow the rules just right, you're told you're good. But Nietzsche would laugh, because what they call good is just obedience in disguise. The education system, religion, even your family, they don't just teach you facts. They teach you a moral structure, a system of values designed not to liberate you, but to domesticate you. The school doesn't teach rebellion. It doesn't teach risk. It teaches compliance. Be quiet, follow instructions. Memorize this, regurgitate that. And what's the reward for your obedience? A letter, a number, a gold star. Little tokens of approval, conditioning you like a lab animal, not to think for yourself, but to crave validation. This is Nietzsche's concept of the herd in action. The herd does not want greatness. The herd wants safety, predictability, uniformity. The nail that sticks out must be hammered down. The one who dares to question the system is labeled a troublemaker, or worse, a failure. But failure by what standard? By the standards of the very system that exploits you. Nietzsche saw this clearly. He knew that society doesn't just tolerate mediocrity, it manufactures it. It builds machines that produce obedient, hardworking individuals, then rewards those who fit, not those who fight. The result: millions of people who work 10-hour shifts, never miss a day, never ask for more, and who die with their potential unrealized. Why? Because their will was broken early. They were told not to seek power but permission, not to rise above but to blend in, not to dominate but to serve. The same is true of religion. Nietzsche called Christianity the ultimate slave morality. It glorifies suffering. It tells you that the meek shall inherit the earth, that the last shall be first, that humility is holiness. And what better way to control the masses than to convince them that their suffering is sacred, that their poverty is a virtue, that their obedience is the path to salvation. Think of the implications. If you believe that your pain is part of a divine plan, you won't rebel, you won't resist, you'll endure forever. This is the genius and the cruelty of slave morality. It doesn't chain your body, it chains your mind. Nietzsche wasn't against spirituality. He was against moral systems that castrate human ambition, that kill the will to power, that elevate weakness as the highest good. And then there's the family. Before school, before church, you had your parents. And if they were like most, they wanted you to be safe, obedient, respectable, not dangerous, not defiant, not Nietzschean, because they were trained by the same system. They passed on what was given to them: fear, conformity, survival. So generation after generation, the doctrine of hard work and obedience is passed down like a sacred relic, never questioned, never inspected. But here's the punchline: the system only works if you don't know it exists. The moment you see it, really see it, it loses its power. Because once you realize that the rules were designed to benefit someone else, you can stop playing their game. Nietzsche called for this awakening. He called for the individual to rise beyond the herd, to destroy the false gods of morality, duty, and sacrifice, and to become the creator of his own values. But here's where it gets dangerous, because the moment you step outside the herd, the world turns against you. They'll call you arrogant, selfish, immoral. Why? Because your freedom is a threat. Your clarity exposes their confusion. Your ambition forces them to confront their own resignation. Nietzsche called this the resentment of the weak. They don't want to rise. They want to drag you down. They don't want to be free. They want you to suffer with them. That's why the hardest workers earn the least. Not just because the system exploits them, but because the system needs them to believe that exploitation is noble. And it works because they don't just accept the pain. They embrace it. They take pride in it. They say things like, "I may not be rich, but at least I'm honest. I work hard, that's all that matters. At least I don't step on people to get ahead." But Nietzsche would say that's not virtue. That's learned helplessness. You're praising your own chains. You've been taught to despise power, to view ambition as sin, to worship suffering. But suffering without transformation is just slavery. The moment you accept that your suffering is your destiny, you've already lost. Nietzsche didn't want you to suffer less. He wanted you to suffer better, to turn pain into power, to use hardship not as a badge of honor, but as fuel for greatness. That's the real tragedy of the hardest workers. It's not just that they earn the least. It's that they've been trained to believe that they deserve the least. That ambition is evil. That questioning is rebellion. That working until you die is some kind of virtue. It's not. It's obedience. It's conformity. It's death in slow motion. So what's the way out? Nietzsche wouldn't give you a checklist. He'd tell you to burn the checklist. He'd tell you to ask brutal questions. Why do I believe what I believe? Who benefits from my morality? What do I really want? And what am I willing to destroy to get it? Because if you're not asking those questions, you're not living. You're just surviving. In the next part, we'll go even deeper into Nietzsche's concept of the will to power and how it explains the real difference between those who rise and those who serve. We'll look at how power operates not through effort, but through positioning, through leverage, through dominance of ideas, and why until you embrace your own power, you'll always work harder and earn less. But before we go there, remember this. If you're working harder and earning less, it's not because you're failing. It's because the system is succeeding, and your obedience is its greatest achievement. Final part, will to power the only way out? The truth is difficult, not because it's complicated, but because it's too simple, too brutal, too honest. You've been told your whole life that effort equals reward, that sacrifice leads to success, that hard work is the highest good. But look around. The people at the top, are they the hardest workers? Are they the ones sweating in factories, cleaning offices, hauling bricks under the sun? No, they are the ones pulling the strings, not with muscles, but with ideas, not with hours, but with ownership, not with compliance, but with power. Nietzsche called it the will to power, the fundamental drive of all life, not to survive, not to be safe, but to overcome, to dominate, to express power fully and unapologetically. Every plant reaching toward the sun, every animal fighting for territory, every human building an empire, all are driven by this single force. The will to power is not evil. It is nature. It is life itself. But society, dominated by slave morality, has taught you to suppress it, to fear it, to demonize it. You're told, don't want too much, don't stand out, be grateful for what you have. Why? Because the system doesn't want lions. It wants cattle. It doesn't want individuals with will. It wants predictable units of labor. So the will to power is crushed, replaced with obedience, with guilt, with a sense of moral superiority for being powerless. But Nietzsche's great message is this: you were not born to serve. You were born to become, to transcend, to create your own values, not inherit someone else's. So when you look around and ask, why do the hardest workers earn the least? You're really asking, why do those who serve earn less than those who rule? Because they were never taught to rule. They were taught to follow. And in Nietzsche's world, those who follow will always be used. The myth of meritocracy. Let's talk about meritocracy. This illusion that effort always leads to success. That the system is fair. That the best rise to the top. Nietzsche would destroy this fantasy. Because the system doesn't reward virtue. It rewards strategy. You can be honest, loyal, hardworking, and still be poor. Because the people who earn the most are not the ones who follow the rules. They're the ones who write them. They don't trade time for money. They trade influence for scale. They don't work harder. They leverage harder. They own assets. They control narratives. They shape perception. They understand something Nietzsche knew long before Wall Street or Silicon Valley, that the world is not ruled by fairness. It's ruled by will. The will to organize. The will to manipulate. The will to dominate. This is not cynicism. It's reality. A lion doesn't apologize to the antelope. A storm doesn't ask permission to destroy. Power does what it wants, while morality tries to make sense of it afterward. So how do you rise? You stop playing by the slave's rules. You stop worshiping effort as a god. You stop looking for validation from the very system designed to exploit you. Instead, you do what Nietzsche demanded. You become your own creator. The creator versus the worker. There are two kinds of people in this world. Those who build their own world, and those who labor in someone else's. Most are the latter, because it's safer, simpler, more comfortable. But comfort is the cage. If you want to escape the trap of hard work without reward, you must stop being just a worker and start being a creator. Creators don't trade time for money. They trade value for influence. They don't ask, what should I do today? They ask, what must exist because I exist? They don't seek approval. They declare authority. This is the Nietzschean ideal. Not a tyrant, not a brute, but a force of will that bends the world to his vision. The true creator redefines the rules. He is not trapped by tradition, morality, or fear. He embraces danger. He uses pain as raw material. He transforms suffering into strength, because suffering alone is nothing. It is just waste. But suffering that is transformed, that is power. This is the great divergence. The fork in the road. Will you be the worker who labors in silence, or the creator who dares to speak a new reality into existence, destroying the slave mindset? To rise, you must first destroy the mindset that holds you down. Here are its pillars and how to burn them. 1. Hard work is enough. No, it isn't. Effort without strategy is wasted motion. Ask yourself, who benefits from my effort? If it's not you, stop. 2. I'm not smart enough. This is not humility, it's submission. Nietzsche believed in the overcoming of self, not stagnation. You don't need to be born brilliant. You need to be brutally committed to evolving. 3. I'm a good person. Good by whose standard? The systems, the herds. What's praised by the crowd is often what keeps you broke. 4. If I just stay patient, success will come. No, it won't. You don't wait for power. You take it. These ideas must die. If they live in your mind, you will remain a servant, no matter how hard you work. Building a will to power. You must become dangerous, not violent. This begins with truth. And then, start building leverage. Leverage is power. It multiplies your effort. It turns 1 hour into 100. It turns one idea into a movement. This is how the powerful work. They build machines, systems, platforms, companies, teams. They detach time from income. They own. They influence. They scale. You must do the same. Start small, but start. Every day you trade time for money. You are reinforcing the slave system. And every day you create something that lives beyond your hours. You are moving toward freedom. This is the real meaning of Nietzsche's will to power. Not domination of others, but mastery of self, creation of value, expression of strength. You become not just a person, but a force. The end of illusions. Let's be brutally honest now. Most people will not escape. They will live and die in the machine. They will work themselves into the ground, proud of their effort, blind to the fact that their effort only enriched others. Let them. You are not here to please the herd. You are here to transcend it. If you want to rise, stop asking for permission. Stop hoping for fairness. Stop obeying dead voices. Break the cycle. Burn the script. Write your own story. You were not born to serve. You were born to shape reality. Not to be the hardest worker, but to be the one who commands where the work goes. This is not easy. This is not safe. But safety is a coffin, and ease is for the obedient. Be the exception. Be the rebellion. Be the danger that wakes the world. And remember, the world is not run by the hardest workers. It is run by those who dare to question the system, break the morality of the herd, and build power with their own hands, not just for money, but for freedom. And that is the only kind of wealth that lasts.